Hello, welcome back everybody to our little weekly reflection that we call here in the Diocese of Derry Scripture Saturday. Over the next 8 weeks, what I'm suggesting is we take a few minutes each week to look at the Bible and the parts that make up the Bible. I don't just mean the Old Testament and the New Testament. We know those two big sections, but there are 73 books. But as you know, the Bible, that big book there, Pope Benedict called it the love story between God and humankind. And I want you to look at the different sections, the different sorts of books that make up that love story. Many of you will know that the first 5 books of the Bible are called the Pentateuch. Obviously the Greek word penta, pentathlon and so on. We get that word used in many ways. The first of those books is the book of Genesis. Now, Genesis certainly at the beginning was not intended as a newspaper report about creation. Why? Because there was nobody there for the first days of creation before Adam and Eve appeared. But it was partly in those early chapters, the first 11 chapters of the first book of the Bible, Genesis, which means the beginning. In the first chapters of that, we end up getting the main sort of truths about who we are and who God is, that then are the scene, are the stage when the rest of the story can take place. So it begins with, in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth. And there's a very simple story about one day God made this, another day God made that. And that contrasted with so many of the other places around Israel, where the world was made out of battles and blood and gods fighting gods. The book of Genesis simply says, God made, and he saw that it was very good. So the whole emphasis is on a God who is Lord of the whole universe, not a fighting God. And then we are made in God's image and likeness as the crown, as the supreme beings in creation. That's where the Bible begins. Now, in the 3rd chapter, we have the story of Adam and Eve and the apple. That whole story about the fall. So the whole story says we are made in God's image and likeness, but we are capable of doing very stupid things, even when we know we shouldn't do it. If you think people don't do that sort of thing, read the papers, read the news. It's full of people making bad decisions. There's a lovely little phrase in the story of Cain and Abel, 2 sons of Adam and Eve, where Abel is killed by his jealous brother Cain, and God says to Cain, sin is like a dog at the door, barking to get in. A very powerful image of how strong sin can be. And then after that, things keep going further downhill. We have the story of Noah and the flood and God trying to start things afresh with good people, and they go downhill again through the whole idea of the Tower of Babel and people being divided up. So the whole point of those first 11 chapters, and you can read them sometime perhaps over the next week, the first 11 chapters of Genesis are all about saying who we are and who God is. The big points I think that Israel wanted to make in those early stories that it handed on to its children, to its families, to its people were, God made the world in love. It's not the product of battles or hatred. God has made this beautiful world in love. God has made us in the image and likeness of God, everybody. And a dignity and honour we don't have to learn, to earn. We are given that simply because we are made in the image of God. And then the third thing, very realistic thing, is that we are capable of making mistakes. And even when we do stupid things and mess up God's plan, we're still given another opportunity, whether it's in the question of Noah and the ark or what will come after this. So at the end of the 11 chapters, we have the statement of who we are as human beings. Now in chapter 12 next week that I'll take up with, we begin to look at Abraham, which is the part of the story where God begins to draw human beings back to who God is and to who we were intended to be from the time we were made in God's image and likeness. But we'll look at that next week. Enjoy Genesis chapters 1 to 11 this week. God bless you as you read the chapters.